Hello, six stringers. Recently in private instruction and also in some master classes, I've been getting a considerable amount of questions asking me about my left hand dexterity and my right hand and some picking approaches. And so I thought I might shoot a video to help answer some of those questions and to help you build up the strength, the dexterity, and the coordination between your fingers in your left hand. So that's kind of the primary focus of the video. Before we get started, I want to address the right hand for a moment. We will be using hammer-ons and pull-offs as well as rest strokes with our right hand. So for those of you that are not familiar with that term, let me show you what I'm talking about. Basically what I'm going to do is play a scale here, but what you'll see is that every time the pick meets the next string, it's always resting on the adjacent string, and that's why it's called a rest stroke. If I was to play the same thing with free strokes, it would look like this. You can see the pick is coming away from the string and it's free, moving in the air, hence the term free stroke. And the first one, once again, is when it's resting on the string next to it, hence the term rest stroke. So we'll be doing that with both downstrokes, rest strokes, and upstrokes with rest strokes as well. On the left hand, I'm going to isolate the fingers in pairs to start with, in pairs of two. So our first pair of two that are adjacent, meaning no finger in between them, will be fingers 1 and 2. Any and all of these exercises should be played slowly to get the most benefit out of it. There's nothing you're really gaining from playing these things super fast. They're not very musical. They don't necessarily fit really well over chord changes of any sort, although there are some exceptions. But mostly, it's just to play them slow and to try to make the notes come out clean. You can do these while you're watching TV. It doesn't take a lot of brain power once you get used to what they are. So here we go. Fingers 1 and 2 will go from the lower notes to the higher notes in all examples. And you'll see the rest stroke taking place in my right hand as well. So we would like to be able to have that same kind of dexterity or that same coordination with our second and third finger, because we do come across things like that when playing. And here's that example. If you are listening closely, you can also see that when we do them slowly, we really have a great shot at finding out from our ear that the pick note and the hammered note sound the same in terms of volume. That's what you're looking to achieve, that evenness between both of those notes. Let's continue with our left hand and take our next set of 2 fingers and isolate those, and this would be fingers 3 and 4. And you can see with each pair of those, when I got to the top string, I always came back the same way. And so our first example used fingers 1 and 2, and in the order 1 and then 2. I came back down the strings the same way. Finger 1, finger 2, then 2. 1, then 2. All the way up and all the way back. This is just for reasons of organization, as you'll see as we continue with the video. So what we'd like to do now maybe is say, let's go ahead and split up our hand a little bit differently. And instead of adjacent fingers, let's go with a non-adjacent finger. And so the first set of those that we have, using only 2 notes still, are fingers 1 and 3. So for fingers 1 and 3, we'll go like this. So for most of you, that'll be pretty easy. Some of those shapes are within a pentatonic scale, which most of you probably know. And so then let's go ahead and isolate our next set of 2. That was 1 and 3. Let's go with 2 and 4. And it'll be the same exercise, but just using the different fingers. Most of the students that I've given these to have had great results with these, and really started out saying, gosh, that 2 and 4 thing was very difficult. And in a couple of weeks, they usually come back and say, man, I can't believe how much better and stronger and more sort of balanced my hand feels regarding fingering the instrument. So that exhausts the non-adjacent ones if we're only going to use 2 at a time. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Let's continue. There's a whole lot more to exhaust, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here is exhaust most of the possibilities, not literally all of them, but most of the obvious possibilities of what we might come across with our hands. So let's do this now. We used 2 notes, and we went low to high every single time, all the way up, all the way back. Let's go back to 2 notes, just as we were, but instead of going low to high, let's go high to low. So this is going to be a pick, then a pull off. Let's do the same thing with fingers 3 and 2, 2 and 3, but obviously we're playing the notes backwards, so fingers 3 and 2. At least for me it is. And then fingers 4 and 3, same drill. Okay, so that's just by taking the exercises we've already learned and just spinning them around and playing them backwards. You can get a lot of mileage out of that. Let's continue and go to the non-adjacent fingers as we did, but instead of forwards, let's do that backwards. Okay, and then let's do that with fingers 4 and 2. And then let's go all the way to the beginning again, and now let's do this, just an idea, this is just to kind of spark some interest for you. Instead of doing them all the way across on adjacent strings, you can go back to the beginning and let's skip a string in between. So and we would do that with all of them, obviously. I think you know where it's going. So those kinds of things, that helps your accuracy of leaping across strings. And then obviously backwards we would maybe do the same thing. Or with the adjacent ones again. All that stuff. Let's move forward and let's go to using 3 fingers instead of pairs of 2. So we'll go to 3 fingers and try some things. And so the first one that comes to mind is 2 adjacent fingers and then a non-adjacent finger. So 1 and 2 and 4. We're going to leave out 3 for this example. So we'll play once again notes low to high. Let's do that, maybe say with fingers 1, 3, and 4. So we'll omit finger 2 this time. Okay, let's maybe say instead of playing the notes low to high, how about we play those high to low? I'm going going back to 1, 2, and 4. And let's do that with fingers 1, 3, and 4. I like to go much slower on fingers 1, 3, and 4 and really kind of feel that muscle really kind of building up, or kind of you'll feel it getting tighter most likely. But that's kind of helping it build a little bit. We're pumping blood to it, and that's a good thing. You don't want to overdo any of these. If you feel any kind of pain, obviously take a rest, stretch your hand out a little bit, and come back to it. But again, these are no-brainers. You can watch TV and do these once you get them under your fingers. And again, anywhere you do them on the neck. Start moving them around, mixing them up, skipping strings as we mentioned earlier. It really doesn't matter what you do once you get them under there. It's just a way to kind of get our fingers moving, work on our rest strokes in both directions. You know, and again on the last one. So those are, you know, 3. And playing them in straight directions. We also have the ability to mix them up even more with, say, 3 notes, where you can start to do things like this: a pull-off and 2 hammers. And then kind of reverse that. And the possibilities kind of become almost endless, but I think after seeing this much of the video, it should become pretty clear to you that you can make some of these up on your own as well. And we did exhaust a reasonable amount of possibilities regarding that. So enjoy the challenge, and I hope it helps your left hand and your right hand.